It builds the suspense for everybody anyway. Nobody logs in.
What is happening? What is happening?
No, nobody logs in right on time. Make sure it's up. What? There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next book chat, book club, whatever this is. I feel like it's Sarah J. Maas book club, but it's also read along. I don't know, whatever. It's fun. But we're happy everyone's here tonight. So excited to talk about Crown of Midnight and the 40 pages that was The Assassin and the Healer. You know, that was a real hard novella for us to get through this week. But yeah. Well, I'll let everyone say hello. We have mostly the same crew, but switched out for a pretty redhead this time. Taji couldn't make it for us, but she's very sad. She was very sad. But anyway, I mean, y'all know whose channel you're on here. I'm Jen, in case you didn't know that. Hello.
Hi, Jen.
Yeah, what an accident. Just showed up there.
Hi, I'm Jessin from Jessin Reads Romance, and I'm a first-time reader of the Throne of Glass series. So this has been pretty interesting, kind of coming into a really huge fandom for this. So
I'm Carrie. I'm Book for Romance. I'm mostly on Instagram now. I've kind of faded off YouTube, but yeah, I have been a Sarah J. Maas fan since the beginning of time, I feel like, and this is a reread for me. So, and I think she's a genius, but yeah.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Hello, I'm Melissa from Book Bar, and this is my first time reading Throne of Glass. I have read the other two series, and I am loving it so far, and like loving picking up on things.
I'm Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life. This is a reread for me. I read the series years ago and absolutely love it. So it's very interesting to go back and read it knowing how it ends up. So it's a good time.
Yeah, we're getting everyone showing up tonight. Hello, friends. So excited. Cool Gamer. Well, hello, Cool Gamer. That's a cool name. Warda, hello. Ash, hello. First time reading. Oh, that's right. Some people, it's their first time reading. I'm like surprised that it is and super excited. I'm super excited. Stacy, I saw you're already starting Heir of Fire and I'm jealous. I immediately want to start it as well. But Stacy posted in her story and it made me think that there's Mafia Romance Readathon and Historical Romance Readathon, and they literally butt right up against this. So if we're doing all the readathons, everything gets pretty crammed up pretty quick. But it's great. It's all good things that we're reading.
at least I have the time to do all of it right now, so I'm very excited about it.
Jessin, I'm so happy that
it happened at a good time for me, all the readathons.
Yeah. Although this will go for the next year, so we'll see how.
Yeah.
At least those ones by then you'll have read before when you're back.
Right.
You'll have read those ones. So that's good.
Exactly. There'll be rereads by the time I'm in the next semester.
Yeah. Well, like last time, I have some preset to go through questions, but of course we can happily detour as we go because it's hard to predict where our conversation will end up. But let's start with first time readers for this book and overall thoughts for everybody who are first time readers. So that means
Melissa, you go first.
Okay. I loved this book. Like, this book was so good. I mean, I liked Throne of Glass, but like after reading this one, I was like, just everything that happened, and I absolutely loved this book. And like I kind of knew some of the things that happened at the end. Like, I knew the big reveal at the end, and like I knew what was going to happen with that. But I still was like, oh my gosh! Like the whole time, I was like, when's this going to happen? When's this going to happen? So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to like avoid everything, even though I feel like I'm going into the series as a whole pretty spoiler free. I did know one thing that happened, but it wasn't the big reveal at the end. So that was the reveal for me. I was like, oh, okay, cool. This book, I told Jen, I was like, for me, it was 80% boring. And then in true SJM fashion, as I respond to her, the ending is just so freaking cool. And I'm like, yes, I love this. So just like last time, I was just like, I loved everything that happened in the end, but I was dragging pretty much the whole way through. But she pulled it off at the end, and I'm just like, oh God, I love what she's bringing to the table. It just is a little bit of a slow burn for me.
This one had really short chapters, so it was really easy. Like, it was like I kept wanting to go and read.
Right. I felt like it was a bit more like reader friendly than the first book, like, but it was still on the same kind of level. But I if I had to stack them up against each other, I do like this one better.
Nice. See some other first time people here. This book was so much better than the first. I'm happy with the direction she's taking this series. Good. I am glad. Ashton gave it 4 stars. First half was a bit slow, but then the character death in the middle turned everything on its head, so the second half had me more hooked. Fair enough. Renee, I purposely avoid spoilers, so the last few chapters were mind-blowing. Yeah. I
was very excited for the last few chapters. They were very exciting for me. I liked them.
Yeah. Oh my, the ending. I've been impatiently waiting for this live to vent about this book. Oh, Carly. I'm unsure whether vent is good or bad for you, so we'll have to see what you mean. I like this a little less than Throne of Glass. I think mostly due to having zero expectations going in. That I'm not a big fan of Chaol so far. That is fair enough. It was so good. I agree it had slow bits, but there were so many clues to what happens in the end. Yes, there were. And I was going to say, Justin, you guessed it pretty early. Like you were guessing it in your messages to me. And I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna listen. Like I think they're there. I think the clues are definitely there with like she talks of Terracin as like it's very clear even in the first book that she's from there. It's just not clear where she is in the hierarchy of that place. And it's kind of the fucking top. Okay. That's where we're at. My opinions from the first book completely changed because before I did not care for Dorian, but I'm more interested in him. Yeah. And I'm excited to see how his journey ends up in the ending. Yes. Yep. Precious Dorian.
I agree.
Oh, good, Carly. You want to vent in a good way, but my husband didn't want to talk. Good, Carly. Okay. You have me nervous. Okay. A happy vent. Your husband didn't care. Well, that is unappreciative of him, but we're here for you. Okay, let's move on to the rereaders this time. Yay. Carrie, do you want to go first?
Sure. Yeah, I was just saying before that for me, I love Sarah J. Maas, so I'm totally biased. So if you guys listen to my opinion, it's 100% biased. But I have to say, because the second book, when I physically read it, I kind of was skim reading it. I kind of missed a few things because I wanted to just go. I just wanted to keep going with the series. So now I listened to the audiobook this time and I picked up so many more things. And for me, like, it was so nice to get those details because I feel like I overlooked certain things that I shouldn't have. And it was good to go back and be like, oh, so and like Justin said, in Sarah J. Maas fashion, she's dropping eggs everywhere she goes as you go. And you're like, oh, I should have picked that up the first time and I didn't. So that was fun.
Yeah. Crystal?
So when I first read this series, I didn't really love Throne of Glass. And I mean, I liked it okay, but I was like, I do not understand the hype of this, the first book. I didn't love it that much. Even though like my rating initially is a 4-star rating, I feel like I was a lot more generous with my ratings back then than I am today. So with this book, when I first read it, I was like, wow, things are picking up, things are coming together. I loved the ending. Wanda can hear me. And it was Wanda. It was a 5-star read for me. But this time I feel like it was probably more of a 4-star read. I still really, really loved it, but I could see more clearly like something that I think Sarah J. Maas does a lot. I was telling Jen, and like, especially in her big series, is there are so many parts that seem really, really slow, that don't really make any sense initially in that specific book. And I feel like if you're not invested in her world or her whole series, that can really slow it down for you. And I feel like a lot of people stop reading them because some of it is really slow. But then later on, all of that ends up paying off in further books in the series or in connecting series. So I was like more aware of the slower bits in this. And also like there was that. So, okay. I was a little annoyed with Celaena in her grief and how it was almost entirely selfish. You know, everything that she was experiencing in her grief with Nehemiah was largely because of the guilt that she felt because she felt responsible. And it wasn't so much a reflection on the grief that she had that Nehemiah had died. So anyway, that was way too much talking, but I gave it, I think I didn't change my Goodreads rating, but it's definitely a 4 instead of a 5-star for me now.
Okay. So yeah, I agree with a lot of that. My first time I gave this one 3 stars because one thing that has, okay, what am I trying to say? One thing that happened through the Throne of Glass series for me, because I corrected myself because I feel this way about the first Crescent City as well. So I was like, the longer her books get, the faster they seem to me. And that is not true with that book. But anyway, but I was saying like with Throne of Glass and Crown of Midnight, they took me so long to get through when I was first reading them. And I was thinking back of like, her books for me got faster and faster for me to read them because I just couldn't stop because I was so addicted to it. So it was just making me smile thinking about of like how agonizing getting through this freaking book was for me the first time. And this time around, yeah, there's so many things that I had just straight up skipped over. The same as Carrie. Like I skimmed so much because I've shared like I fell into this series because of Booktube, because of seeing other people's reviews about it. So I'm usually spoiled when I'm going into the series. Like I knew who she was going to be, but I didn't understand what that name even meant, you know? So that's how spoilers are for me. Like I'll hear spoilers and be like, oh, okay, cool. And then when I'm reading a book, I can just forget what spoilers are. I know not everyone's like this, but I'm like this. So I knew that this character Aelin comes about, but I did not understand that Aelin and Celaena are the same person. And so even watching a review about it, where someone tells me, I didn't know that. So this time around, I'm like, oh my God, there are clues everywhere who she is. I am dumb, you know, like I'm not paying attention at all. And yeah, I think a lot of that is like, I think it's funny in a way because that has happened in every series of hers that I've read now. Like there are parts that do that, like Crystal said. And I was like, I kind of wish she would improve on that then. So many people wouldn't be dull in the beginning. But then I'm like, yeah, but it obviously works because her books are very rereadable for that reason. I don't know. I mean, she's makes $1 billion. I'm not one to judge, but I don't know. This time around, I was very impressed with that for overall feelings anyway. So let me scroll through some of it.
Can I interject?
Yep.
I was looking at my review for like, because when I read the novellas, I just read the whole book like this. And so I rated it and reviewed it on Goodreads. And I said in my review, like, I just don't think that she does short fiction well at all. Like, I feel like she needs a really long book to tell her story. And I don't love how she does short fiction. So even though I'm like complaining about the slow parts and how long some of her books are, I think that it works so much better for her writing style. But.
Yeah. Like she's got to build where she needs to go.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good thing. And I mentioned this in the first live show. I'm really glad that I'm reading it during this, like, you know, book club kind of thing, because I know that the first couple books are slow. I was told that in the beginning. It was just like, be patient, Jessen. They're slow in the beginning. I'm like, okay. So I was forewarned in that instance. So I'm along for the ride, even though I'm like, yes, these are slow. It's fun because I know that I will get invested. I just haven't quite gotten there yet.
I love that about you. Y'all, this is coming from my friend who read 9 effing Cora Riley books to get to the book I wanted her to read. Because I read her one sentence. And she's like, what book is that? And I was like, well, it's this book, but there's this many books before. And she was like, game on, motherfucker. And so I promise you don't have to wait as long as you did to get to the point. But anyway, all right.
I think my expectations were so low because everyone was like, oh, the first 2 are not good, they're slow. So my expectations were really low. And then when I read this one, I was like, this is not, like, I am really enjoying my time reading this.
Yeah. I feel like we try to I feel like Sarah J. Maas fans, we're so used to people like not liking the beginnings, so we very much try to prepare our friends for it. And then some people are just going to be like, "Why were you so worried? I loved it." I mean, it's hard to know. It's hard to know a lot more. But
and I feel bad for Sarah because I judge Sarah against Sarah. So literally, like, I judge her against herself. Now, if you take this series and judge it against other series, for me, it's always going to be one of my tops. So, like, I feel bad that I do that to her, but when she's
I told
best.
that to Crystal. I do that too. I was telling Crystal, I was like, I know that she can absolutely blow me away. So I'm just like reading this and I'm just like, where's the Sarah that blows me away? You know what I'm saying? So like I am comparing her against herself because I'm like, I like your other series better so far.
That's so hard because this is still like the second book she wrote. So she wrote the first one.
I know. And like I know that.
It's like it's hard when you have the Crescent City books now, which are just
Well, and also like Akamath was her 6th book.
That's true.
Like the book that so many people is their favorite. Like it's her 6th book. There's a lot that got worked on by then. So no, I think
the fact that she was writing those 2 series at the same time, like, just kind of blows my mind. You know, like how.
I mean, now we might understand a little more. Okay. Sorry, host. I need to read people's comments because they're talking right now. We gotta stare. All right. I liked it about the same as reading it the second time. I gave it 4 stars. The last part of the book had me just as excited to read the second time. Lizelle said, I was reading for the ending. Absolutely. I feel like Crystal was spot on about the slow parts. Yes, Jess, absolutely. Lori Lou said, I love having a chat about the book. It's nice to get others' POV. It's really fun to see if I missed things. I couldn't put any of the books down in the series so far. Love it. Love it. Stacy said, for me, it was almost too many hints. When it came to the reveal, I was like, okay, cool. I was right. Yeah. Stacey, that's not wrong. Like I said, rereading it this time too, I was like, wow, we're a little heavy-handed here.
Yeah, I was like you the first time though. I was like, I was convinced that Aelin and Celaena were 2 different characters.
Right. Well, because she talks about her that way. She talks about her in second person in a scene with, is she talking to Dorian? I think she's talking to Dorian about it because Dorian says he met Aelin. And it's like, oh, you don't recognize her? Well, a lot has happened. But also, this was more firmly in YA then. Yeah, and they apparently need a spoon feed to the children. I don't know why. The children were us. We were smart. But there's that.
I mean, a lot of people did. I mean, I didn't get it. I was just like, oh, she was a different. Yeah, I think a lot of people did. I mean, if you got it, you pick up on those clues real quick. I'm not. Yeah. I'm like, I need 100 eggs.
When Dorian was like, oh, I met her, I was like, but how did you not recognize her?
Wait, I was telling Jen that too. I was like, there's a part in here where they met.
And she wasn't a hardened criminal. Like, he's not going to think a princess is this assassin who grew up in, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we forget
how bad clueless sometimes. It's okay.
Right. But also I think we forget how bad our memory is too. Like, we remember people by seeing them all the time. If you lived in a time of no photos or pictures or memories of someone and you saw them and talked to them for 5 minutes and then met them a decade later, would you know it's that person?
I mean, it depends how old she was too. Like, if she was like 7 and then she turned to be 16, 9, or like, and then turned to be 18 or whatever, like, they'd be totally different, taller, longer hair, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we do characters or do this? I can go through the characters or we can go through this,
whichever.
Okay, let's do with the characters. Let's I think this is gonna be a big conversation to talk about Celaena, so let's get going with that. Celaena / no one's gonna say it. Okay, I know she's got a big long name. Celaena / Aelin Ash River Galathinius, because that's how fantasy people do it. We just take letters and replace them with Y's, and it makes it look mystical.
Absolutely.
We'll go back to this. Let's talk about Celaena. She continues to be a bit of a tough one in this. But I don't know. I don't know. She's tough. I remember the first time that I read this, I actually agreed with her a lot. And I think I was maybe more volatile about things myself. And I was like, oh my God, Chaol, you're horrible. but I already hated Chaol, so I wasn't on his side. This is your fault. It's your
Not Team Chaol.
I was all like, it's totally your fault. I blame you for everything. And this time around, I'm literally like, okay, he's literally known about it for 2 days. And you also were being a bad girl. So why are we blaming everybody else for all of our problems? But that's a trait of Celaena big time, is blaming other people for her problems, because she's running all the time. Like, that's literally what she's doing, is running all the time. So anyway.
I feel like this book, when we see Celaena, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, to me, it was so evident how selfish that she is. And I think that was deliberate on Sarah J. Maas's part because of what happens towards the end. I feel like she wanted to show her being pretty selfish in her motivations, and how she, was content to live in comfort at the castle and just sort of do her little tricks. And, she was hesitant to really go out and try to make change in the world, whereas Nehemiah was really trying to get her to do that. So I think that makes her, I feel like Sarah J. Maas was trying to make her a little bit unlikable. I don't feel like she's ever tried to make Celaena a very lovable, endearing character, even though we admire things about her. Like Stacy said, she loved the assassin things. Like, that was my favorite part so much. But it was just interesting to me. It seemed so obvious that she's really trying to make her a very selfish, very self-centered character. And that's going to be pivotal for her hero's journey later on. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
That's why she's a hard character for me right now, because I don't like her behavior. I feel like she's a bit of, she gets really mad when people don't immediately share information with her. Like, I was telling Jenn, like, after she goes into a deep, dark depression about Nehemiah, and I have other stuff to say about that, she finds out that Nehemiah didn't tell her everything. And she's like, the betrayal, the deceit. And I'm just like, it's just so annoying, because she also is keeping stuff from people. She's not telling them everything. Like, she has stuff that she's keeping secret. Anytime someone keeps a secret from her, it's like the worst thing ever. And like, you are dead to her. Like, go away. I hate you. But if she keeps a secret, it's like, but I'm doing it for the greater good, or like, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm handling it. And I'm just like, you're aggravating. So it was hard for me to get on board with her. I'm still on my journey with that. So
Yep.
It really shows her age, like how young she truly is.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to push into about this, though, and this connects with Elena and Nehemiah and all that's going on with it, is that I would have liked one of them, either one of those women, either the ghost woman or her real friend, to acknowledge the fact that, if this person was really who they thought she was, if this is really Aelin, that this child had her entire family and most of her country all murdered, and she was dumped in a river and left there to die. And maybe she just wants to say fuck it to the world and kill people for money. Like, I'm not saying she gets to stay on that path forever, but I would have liked, instead of it immediately being like, you're a coward and you're selfish, not that Celaena won't say that to herself and be like, oh, poor me, but I don't know. I still see her as a child, and I see like how traumatic that was, that her loving home and her country and her magic, all of that was just taken away from her. And then it's like, oh, but you're supposed to save this country now and bring it down. And it's like, maybe I don't want to do that. Of course, that's a hero's journey that you need to get over it and do it. But I think that instead of Nehemiah immediately, like, she's like, you won't do. She's like, no, I'm not going to. It's like, well, you're a coward. And it's like, yep, I guess I am. Okay, have fun. Calling me a coward is really going to help me want to do it. But that's just me being cynical. And I do want Celaena to get along. But I think this time reading it, of when I would see her be in a depression, and then like Nehemiah dying, is just like, oh, wow. So the one other friend that I've made, this person's died. And oh, Chaol, who I was trusting with my body and with some of myself, now he's the reason this happened. Like, all of the betrayals are like happening still. So I don't know. It's just a lot, and she should get over it. But also, should we tell people to just get over it when people have just like died all around us. Like, I don't know. So
I think it's more like her behavior, though. It's not even, it's like, oh, get over your past trauma. Is that, like you said, she definitely, we know, even before we know who she really is, she definitely has a vendetta against the king. And she feels like, oh my God, there's this guy who has done great harm to me and I would kill him if I could. And so you see that potential in her, but then she's also just okay going around the castle, dressing for parties and eating cake and just lying about. So it's like, it's hard for me to get on board with her because she just doesn't seem like, sometimes it doesn't seem like all the things that happen in her past are affecting her that much. She's willing to set that aside and just like enjoy herself. So it's kind of like hard for me when she gets like really mad about stuff because I'm just like, you just wasted a whole month with this clue doing absolutely nothing, like this big clue, and you did absolutely nothing with it. And now you're going to blame other people. And it's just very annoying for me. I just don't understand that.
I think too with her, she's acting her age as well. Like she's 17
Which is why I
years
don't
old.
read YA because I don't have patience
18,
for
just
this.
barely.
I don't
18.
have patience.
Yeah, maybe 18. But like, I think she's acting a lot her age too, where it's like when something happens, it's very dramatic. You know what I mean? Or like, yeah. So it's just like, I could see that. Also, I could see her playing this as almost like a chess game too. Like when I saw Celaena, I was just like, I know this is the ultimate chess game for you. So like, especially with Chaol at the end and like him figuring out who she was and she got sent back with her allies. I'm wondering, and this is like a question for other people, like, did she play that perfectly or did she really want to stay behind and fix things? Like, did she want to leave and she just played that perfectly, or like, how did she, like, I didn't know because he was so devastated.
You mean Chaol's making it so she can leave? What are you talking about?
Right, like he had her go set sail and he like pushed her into her allies, but it made it seem like Celaena wanted to stay and fix everything. But did she really want to go, or did she really want to stay? Like that's like
I felt like the only reason why she didn't want to leave is because she was afraid that the king would kill Chaol and like in all the threats, like if she left and never came back. I think that's why she was hesitant to go. And for me, it was mostly Chaol just maneuvered her into a position where she wanted to leave and she was trying to figure out how she could get out early from her contract anyway. So I was just like, that was just luck for her. She just has, you know, somebody on her side getting her to where she needs to be.
But now the king is blessing it. So
right, exactly.
All right, let's see what a couple people said here. She takes the darkness on as her personal mantle and has chosen her bitterness as her hill to die on. That's fair. Maybe it's because I also had issues with Chaol, but I understood her keeping her secrets since it would keep her safe. Chaol keeping secrets puts her, Nehemiah, and her guards in peril.
I don't blame him. I don't have the dislike of Chaol that some people seem to have.
No.
I don't dislike him either. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You're right. I agree differently, or I agree this time, which is different from me from last time, because I don't blame him for it. I think that part of it is I think partially it's his fault for not sharing there was a threat, but I don't blame him for her death. I just think he could have shared with both Dorian and Celaena what was happening. I don't understand his diehard loyalty to the king over like Dorian. That's something that I don't get, because it seems to me that like Dorian is the BFF to him, is supposed to be his best friend, but he will have this diehard faithfulness to his king as the loyalty up until a certain point. That changes in this book, and it just frustrates me a lot because I'm like, the king is fucking evil, Chaol, and you're a man of like honor. You need to pay attention. So I get irritated with that. But it'd been like 2 days. Like he finds out about the threat on her, and then it happens. Like, I don't blame him for that. I don't think she should have blamed him for that. And I think she admits that at the end. She admits it at the end. She's just like, I'm also too damn volatile to forgive you. So you're like, she's honest about it. She's like, I realize it's not all your fault. I was projecting, but also I'm not going to get over it that easily. So this is good for me to leave. Like, you know.
Like she took it way over the top.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay.
I'll go.
She just took it way over the top. Like I could see being upset about it, but like and you take it out on the ones you love type thing situation. So, but like she just went bananas on him, and I'm like, whoa, like that was extreme. It was kind of extreme situation.
But I feel like that comes right back to everything that she is doing. It's not so much how angry she is at Chaol, it's how angry she is at herself, because she wasn't there to stop that from happening. And that's why I feel like all of that anger, all of her acting out, is really less about Chaol and feeling betrayed, and it's more about her really hating herself for not being there when Nehemiah died. That's how I see it. But I see Justin looks like she is.
Let her go.
So,
let her go.
I have a problem with Celaena because it's not even just this instance. She's very hot and cold. Like in the beginning of this book, Dorian obviously still kind of has feelings for her, so she's pushing him away. But she's very hot and cold with that because in the beginning, she's all pushing him away and like, we cannot even talk anymore. Like, fuck this friend thing. It's like, we can't even talk anymore. Like, I will ignore the shit out of you and I'm only going to hang out with your BFF. He is now mine. And then as soon as Chaol betrays her, she's like, fuck you, Chaol. Hey, Dorian, I know I ignored you for this whole book, but like, can I hang out with you now? And I'm like, F you. What? I was just so mad at her because I'm just like, you can't do that. You can't just be like, I'm going to push you out of my life. But then when I need you, okay, now we can be friends again. And that's like just another aspect of her character that I'm just like, I want her to grow up and mature so that I can be like, I'm so satisfied. But like, it's still not there for me yet. There's still quite a few little nitpicky things like that where I'm just like, you're so frustrating.
She is. She's a super frustrating character, I feel like. And I didn't feel like that the first time I read it. Whereas like that's such a common critique. Like people hate Celaena, people really hate on her. And I was like, I don't have a problem with her, but this time I'm like, I see it. That's fair.
Yeah.
I have to say, I don't hate her or anything like that. I think she's just a character that has a lot to build on. But like, I still think
she don't hate her.
Like,
no,
I get it now.
But we hate this aspect of her character. She is, and I'm not saying this to disrespect anyone who actually has this as a disorder, but she has freaking bipolar attitudes. I won't call it the thing. She has bipolar attitudes in this book.
Hot and cold for sure.
Very whiplash and unfair to the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
However, this is not normal interpersonal relationships. So I'm more just kind of like, okay, Celaena, like whatever. But I want to point out Warda's comment here because I think this is very true. If we read all the way through, for people who are first time readers too, if you read all the way through the Assassin's Blade, and this has been hinted at, we won't spoil the exact thing that happens, but it's a betrayal that costs her Sam at the end of Assassin's Blade and ends her up in Endovir. That is hinted at in these two books. So that is true. That is a major trigger for her, that someone keeping a secret and not sharing all information led to that. So that is like history to be filled in as we go, but it doesn't make it easier. We're not saying it does. So let's move on to another character now. But she will still come up, we know, but we have some other people to because I think we agree she's not a stable mentally person right now. Let's talk a little bit. He has some fun stuff starting to happen, starting with saving his best friend's life from Celaena chopping his head off.
I forgot about that. I was like,
yes, I forgot that's what sparks his magic to come out first. Because I was like, oh wow, she's really gonna kill him. Okay, that's bad. And Dorian stops it, and then he turns into a little sleuth. He gets to be a little sleuth to figure out what's going on. So what do you think about Dorian? Ouch.
I love how he has been presented up until this point as sort of like a playboy, sort of like a himbo type of character who's pretty but dumb, And I feel like in this book we get to see like there's a lot to Dorian under the surface that is just waiting to come out. So I really loved getting to see him be sleuthing things out and figuring things out and putting things together. I loved it. I thought it was fabulous.
Dorian's
I felt like overall. He had the most. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I felt like I liked seeing more of his character. Like in the first book, like I just felt like he was very blah. But this one, you really start to see more of like who he is, and there's more to him than just a pretty face.
Right. I really do love Dorian's character. Like, everybody's like Team Chaol or Team Dorian. Like, I was always Team Dorian. I just love his character and who he's like has his father who's always like disappointed in him and he's gonna go against the king. And I just love that character of him like getting to the point where he's like developing as a character, understanding like he has magic. What is he going to do with it? Like with the lines of like, now we understand like the king hasn't suppressed his line with the keys and how Dorian is going to take that hopefully and do something great with it. But I mean, here's the thing, like Dorian is just a great character overall. I feel like he's just a great person. Like, I don't know. I just love him as a person. Like you just want to hug him. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like Dorian, for me, he was more like he's just like this neutral character, especially in the first one. He's there to like flirt with Celaena, and he really doesn't have any like cause that he's passionate about. He's just like Crystal said, just there to look pretty. And that's what I liked about this book, because he actually has like something interesting that's happening now that he's exploring. A lot of like self-discovery is coming along, and I found that so much more compelling for his character. And I would say like it wasn't that I was Team Chaol or anything. Chaol just had things going on in his life where Dorian was just like cruising through, no care in the world. But now things are starting to happen, which makes him a more interesting character. So I really like seeing his journey so far.
Yeah, I forgot that he punched the wall. Thanks, Carly. Sorry. I meant in a dramatic fashion that he showed other people, but you were right, Carly. I totally forgot about this. Thank you.
I also thought it was interesting that his magic like first appeared like right after like Nehemiah kind of mentions it, and all of a sudden it just kind of like appears. I was just like, did she unlock something in him? Like, what just happened just now? He's punching a wall and stuff's happening. So I thought that was interesting.
It felt like something awoke inside of him when she said that.
I know. It was like she called to it, and things started happening.
I wonder too if he was like in denial because he's like, oh, we can't do magic here, and I'm not going to do magic. So like the whole denial of like
trying
magic, right?
Yeah,
he wouldn't have even been trying to do it because how would it happen? What?
I missed that.
Renee, see, girl, you picking up stuff. This is her first time reading too, and I'm missing.
See, it's going to take me a third time to read this.
I might not have been tabbing correctly.
This is why we do book club. And then the question with that becomes like, does Nehemiah know, or she's just checking? Because it's like, I'll just draw this, and if it doesn't do anything, it doesn't do anything. Oh, well. Right. See, wow, it's all. See, Jessin at least noticed that she said something. I was just all like, no.
Hey. Same. I'm like, what? Did she do something? What chapter was that?
Yeah, I'm like, I have the chapter where he uses magic mark, but I don't have her drawing the word mark, so I missed that completely.
Well, did he use it or did it awaken?
Well, I don't have it marked like her drawing a word mark.
Well,
I just never marked that at all. But now I'm curious because that's a cool thing.
Okay, so they're saying that's what is that what Celaena was telling Nehemiah, y'all? I thought it had to do with her like dying more, but that makes sense. See, because here's the thing too. I always interpreted the death of Nehemiah as after her discussion with Celaena, she knew she would need to sacrifice herself as motivation. That's how I always read it. But maybe it wasn't as. Maybe it was this was the thing she needed to do. I don't know. I always have read it that way. And by always, I mean the 2 times that I've read it. But you think that Celaena told her to. All right, everyone's saying that that's what she was saying. I'll have to look at that chapter again.
Yeah, I'm reading it here, and I think I just interpret it as it says she touched his chest, tracing a symbol there too. I thought he had a symbol on his chest, and she was just tracing it. Like, I did not pick up that she was drawing something on him. I was like, he must have some embroidery on his tunic or something. Like, I did not catch that at all.
I was like, oh, are these two flirting with each other?
Right. That's what I was thinking too.
The very first time I read it. I was like, oh, they maybe could have been together. That could have
Right.
been interesting. I feel like she learned a lot from Celaena. Yes. Yeah, she knows some things. She talked to her.
Yeah, and didn't like the whole. I mean, we're not on Nehemiah yet, so I'll wait to say it. But
we are almost there. Sorry.
okay, no worries.
I mean, we can go to her next then. Let's go to her. And I mean this as two separate things because we can go back to the other one. They're not in particular order. I just have them listed to pick through. So we can go into this.
I was thinking though, with Nehemiah, when she died, the reason why she didn't explain everything to Celaena was because she wasn't ready to hear it. So it was like she died to set off the chain reaction. And it was the reason why she didn't explain it to her. That's how I read it. I don't know how you guys thought about that.
Yeah. Well, so okay, so that like chapter that's just a couple paragraphs. Again, I have never picked up on the fact that she did a symbol on Dorian, so that makes the most sense to me now. But the way I previously interpreted it was Celaena saying, like, you know what you need to do. This is the next, this is the next thing. And I always thought that her death was kind of like planned to be this set off point for her because she knew there would need to be a catalyst because Celaena was just like, I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to do any of that. Right. And it could be both things. Like it definitely could be both things, knowing who actually killed her. It's like, was that something completely out of her control? Or, does she know, she knew what was going on with Archer and it was like, this is coming. So I'm going to make it possible to happen. I'm going to make it possible that I get killed this way. I don't know. This is just me throwing it out there, but I've always taken it that like Nehemiah had to die in this book because the hero needs the death of their mentor or their, like that's what's supposed to happen in a hero's journey is they have to have this loss at this time, Yeah. And that was Nehemiah for her, anyway. Other people.
So for me, Nehemiah dying, I was just kind of like, oh, damn, the character who's kind of the coolest at this point is dead now. That sucks. She has the most information. She seems to be very knowledgeable about the weird marks or whatever. And she just knows so much things. And I was expecting her to be like a long game character and she wasn't. So I was like, oh, wow. I didn't think I wanted to see more of her because I loved her in the first book. I found that I had like more of a connection to her in the first book, just because I felt like I wanted to see her more in this book, but I didn't. And I think that's why I was just kind of like, I was actually thrown off with Celaena's response to Nehemiah's death because I was like, how often did you guys hang out? To me, I just didn't see this like very tight friendship between them. Like I know that she liked Nehemiah, but also she was in a place where like she hated most people anyway. So it was just kind of like her reaction to me. I was like, okay, absolutely very sad, horrific to walk in on that. But like the deep depression that she went into is a little bit too much for me because I was like, get mad and go avenge her. But I don't know. I just felt like she didn't know her that well.
Okay, so I want to say this is my first time reading these, so no, obviously this will not be spoilers for anything, but there was that one POV. I'm wondering if she's not really dead and like she like somehow switched places with someone, because there was that one like random POV after she died of someone at the Chaol, the other other prison. And there was that one girl who was like, and she's like, oh, she's dead. So I'm like, is she?
Yeah, I thought that was a very random POV too.
Like it's that's Nehemiah, and this person is like, and they like switched lives to help do this.
I mean, I would say she's on the other side of the veil, is what I would say. So,
okay.
I mean, I'm not trying to ruin your experience, but that is a random POV. I think the point is they're showing like that race of people that like they feel like they felt it inside when it happened. I think it's supposed to show their connection with her, and that now there's going to be like something that comes of that. That's how I took it. That's how I see that's how I see that going. But that's an interesting perspective. I wouldn't have thought that.
And that's why her death, like, I mean, her death is so, I feel like it's sad because I did feel like they were close in the first book. Like I felt like they had a pretty solid friendship, Celaena and Nehemiah. But I mean, Ashton said, there were all these male characters that are still alive, and it had to be her, like Jen was saying, it had to be her to move the story forward, because without that death, then her people aren't going to be upset about that. It's not going to set things in motion, not just for Celaena, but for like the world as a whole. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Because those people are going to be very upset that their beloved princess died there. That isn't just for one thing. Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, I would rather see one of the men die for sure.
Right. No.
Yeah, I really loved when she walked out to the burial site and sang the ancient song or whatever. I thought that was really, really cool. And I love that Sarah put in there, even though she didn't sing good. Like, I love those little details. Like, no one's going to walk out and be like, whatever a good singer, like Taylor Swift or whatever, and just belt it out, So I love that she's like slurring the end of it and sobbing through it. And I was like, that's just good detail. Like,
and it was a
I also
big
just
giveaway.
like it when a main character's not good at everything. So I was like, she can't sing. I love that.
I mean, it was also like a really risky move to make. And she did that for her friend because only the royalty knows that.
Yeah.
They were the only people allowed to do it.
Yeah, and obviously, she knew Chaol was there, and she still did it. So she's displaying a little bit of trust still as she's mad at him, letting him see that.
This is good. Nehemiah was her people's hope, so they lost that hope when she died. Yeah,
she is a cool character, man.
She was.
She is that character that their death means more than their life will for the longevity of the story. It's going to be the thing that like we remember all the way to the end. We remember that she's the princess, she's the woman that made Aelin come back, that made Aelin step up, that made her do everything that she will do. And it stinks when it's that certain type of character that gets fridged to make that happen. I mean, it's the same thing in superheroes. It's why the term fridging exists. When the girlfriend or the person, the mom, the aunt gets killed to set that in motion. But there's a reason why that is an archetype and why it exists is because it does work. It gives them, there isn't like anything else that would convince her to do this. She doesn't have anyone else left that she cares whether they lived. It's all about self-preservation. It's all about me. And Nehemiah is the exact opposite of that. She is selfless in everything that she does. And so the sacrifice of a completely selfless person reminds Celaena that, okay, there needs to be more to this. And first, she's going to be depressed and eat her cake and her puppy for a good amount of time, which gets annoying. But it's going to push her to do a lot more. Yes, Ashton, I know my comic books. I know my terms. She was definitely fridge, but also she will, there is that ghostly door and all that jazz and everything. So she also talked about rebuilding Aelin's court. And I feel like that's that would be a big inspiration. Well, Stacey, for someone with no foresight, I would say interesting. Celaena willed everything to Chaol, and even though she was mad and hurt, she still wasn't willing to change it. So there had to be some trust there. Yeah, because she knows. It's like Crystal said, like she's blaming herself. Would she have ended up still killing him? Probably, and that would have really sucked. So I'm glad Dorian was there because she's an overly passionate, crazy woman. But I love that. I did love she promised Nehemiah that she would set her people free. That's oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to move along because I don't want to cry about Nehemiah anymore. We're going to move on because we still have so much. We're almost an hour in already. All right, now we'll go back to Chaol. And I feel like we don't have too much to say because we covered him. We'll talk about other people. But he's our last like main character to discuss. And then I have some side people here. But what did we think of his character development from the first to this one? I think that's some good things to discuss.
Well, I feel like for the most part, though, too, which kind of sucks. And that's why I wish that Nehemiah would have been in it more, because we could have cut off this like love interest stuff a little bit, because he kind of took the place of Dorian. In the first book, it was Dorian and Celaena being all loved up and hanging out in the room. And now this one, it's Chaol and Celaena being all loved up in the room and doing all that. So I wasn't quite interested in that because I'm not sold on either of them with her at all. But when his father got there, I was like, ooh, interesting. I love family history. I love seeing them butt heads against each other. And I also really loved that he sacrifices basically like what he wanted to do, which was to get away from his father, get away from that kingdom and stuff. And he's like, okay, I'll basically sacrifice my happiness in life to get Celaena away. And I was like, oh, I love that. I love that. And then like he finds out at the end, he's like, oh no, I might have just put my best friend's life in danger by getting her out. So I thought that was all really cool.
Yeah, it's really like the ending. You can't fake that ending. Like he just felt like betrayal. Like he was just like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like she didn't tell me. Like she knew, and I just sent her off, and I have to trust that nothing's gonna happen to Dorian now. And it's just like that ending was bomb.
Well, because he knows Dorian has magic now, though.
He does.
And the thing is that I think it's a gut reaction to be like, oh shit, what did I do? But there's got to be a part of him that realizes that, like, if his best friend could, like, to be free to be that, like, we'll need to topple this kingdom.
They're on the same side. Like, Celaena has magic, Dorian has magic. She doesn't want to kill Dorian. She wants to kill the king.
Yeah, he can't fully process it right now. It's a big thing, but it's not a bad thing. Like,
Sorry.
Nope, your turn.
He's honestly one of my favorite characters. I think that his character arc in this series is fantastic. And I think it's very interesting. I love that they included his dad in here because I think that really highlights why he puts so much trust and faith in the king and the system. Like, he is a man who has so much trust in the system that he believes that to be like the highest ruling power and everything. And it's just fascinating to see that very gradually break down over time throughout the rest of the books, where he realizes that, just because he is in this position to serve the king, it doesn't necessarily mean that he has to do all the things there. So, I mean, he is a little dense in his loyalty to the king, but I feel like it really makes sense for his character, especially when you see his dad step in and how he was brought up and how he was raised. And anyway, even though he tried to get away from that, like his own father, by going to this kingdom, it's still just so interesting. So I love Chaol, even though he is, I think he's probably like a starchy type of character, very, very stern, very, order and law and rule. And I just love, I can't wait for future books with him.
I'm very excited for his arc this time around because I have a lot more love for him too. So now that I know where it ends, I like seeing it. Also because, he is irrationally loyal, but also because of the type of man he is, that's loyalty and honor. Like, I get that. One thing, okay, I didn't bring this up about Dorian or Chaol, so I'll bring it up now. One thing that was a big peeve of mine in the beginning of this book is how both Dorian and Chaol are very upset that Celaena is killing people. When, like, Dorian literally brought her here to be an assassin. Like, let's just acknowledge it all for 1 second. Right. How fucking stupid that is. Yeah. They would be upset that she's killing people. And granted, like, I'm happy she wasn't killing people and that she was getting people out because they were mostly innocent people who just, the king is a asshole, which we know. But for them to be like, I wonder if she's killed another person tonight and now she's coming back from it. Or like, oh, she's so callous about that head that she's rolling down. And I'm like, she's the king's
assassin. Literally her job. It's her job.
That's why you're
the king's guard. Like, just because he hadn't killed anyone until book 1, like, well, that's a fucking miracle because you are the captain of the guard. And that should have been like, anyway.
To jump on what you just said, Jen, like, yeah, and if Chaol pissed her off, the first thing she's gonna do is try to kill him, like, just because she's assassin, so her trigger is, I'm gonna kill you because this is what I do. Like, I don't know, like, and it's not the right thing, but I think it's her go-to thing.
Yeah, she is called undeservedly in some senses, but she was called the most like notorious assassin in the land. And then we're all like, oh, she's killing people for the king. And I'm like, you dense potato, like shut up. But anyway.
For an assassin, she does seem to spare people a lot. So,
right,
you know,
right. Like we could
how did you earn that
That's
title,
true.
Celaena? Can you tell me?
we could literally call the Assassin's Blade like how many times Celaena stops killing people. I don't know. She prevents which I mean I'm great for as her character, as the person that she is, but
Right.
how she became the assassin that everyone's scared of, I don't know. there should be badges for everybody that I survived Celaena Sardothien instead, you know, like
and there should only be like 4 of those badges out there.
Yeah, even first referred to her. Yeah, like he literally only called her like assassin or whatever, but whatever. I mean, this is true order too. Like he started seeing her too as like this pretty woman that he wanted to bang, and he didn't want to think of her killing people. So
yeah, I really liked Ashton's comment about that.
Yeah,
that was a good one.
Yeah, they wanted her to be an assassin until they both realized they were attracted. Yeah. And now she doesn't fit in their stereotype of a woman. Whoa, Ashton. Throwing the shade, girl. Throwing the shade.
It's true.
Well, I will say, when we finally shall meet the endgame person, he tends to like that she has. Anyway, not spoiling, but just saying. There will be someone who appreciates her darkness side. Not her darkness, her vengeful side. So there's someone more perfect for her. All right. Okay.
This book always makes me so all into the series. I just want to binge it all right now.
100%, Crystal. 100%,
I did immediately start Air of Fire, but I only got like a chapter in because I was just like, oh, stuff's going to happen. And then I read the first chapter without any spoilers. And I was like, man, she's back on her bullshit in chapter 1. So anyway.
Is it part 2 that starts with the I'm not saying it, but which part starts with the person that I want? When does the POV that I want start? I thought it was the immediate beginning. I
think it's a couple chapters in, to be honest.
Is it? Okay.
Well,
because Justin started it and then was like, oh, Celaena, and I was like, or whatever. And I was like, oh, I thought that it was this other person. And then I was like, oh well. I know it'll happen eventually.
It seems like it was right away.
Yeah. Okay. It must be like
I was just annoyed by her pulling a Jack Sparrow drinking a lot. I was like,
oh yeah.
Oh,
call to arms, and then like, man, oh well. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Oh, she has so much
waiting
for her. Book 3 is real good for her. What do we think of the king's secrets that we're finding out? I think we were putting that together, what was happening, but
I really like the reveal of like what is going on behind the scenes with the king. Like, because we knew he was big shady shadester. We knew that he was probably using some sort of magic for his own gain while forbidding everybody else to use magic. And so I really like the reveal that there are these 3 keys and he's in possession of at least one of them and has nefarious plans for that. So I definitely want more of his background. Like, where did he come from? Like, I want more on the king to make him a less cliche villain at this point, because he still is just very like evil sounding, and he hasn't really done too much. He just sits on the throne, touching his obsidian ring, all that jazz. But I'm more excited about stuff to come.
Falling into books just sends poop emojis for. I love it.
I'm intrigued as to how he doesn't realize that it's Celaena who's doing all of the, who was able to open the gate. Because, I mean, there's not that many people there, right? And you don't think it's one of his guardsmen. So it's like, how do you not realize that it's this girl that you don't know anything about who's able to open these gates and do all these things?
Yeah, and Nehemiah is now dead, so it can't be her. I mean, the suspects are dwindling, and he's still just like, I wonder who that was. Maybe it's the new girl who just arrived here, possibly.
Yeah.
I really liked that you're not sure what key he has or how many keys he has. I do like that aspect of it. Like you're trying to play a guessing game of like what the king has. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I didn't pick up on the first time through too, like what the headaches meant for everyone. That was something that I picked up, I was paying attention this time that whatever he's doing to suppress it, it's specifically hurting people who have that in their line somewhere. So I thought that was really interesting that his curse is what I keep like wanting to call it, even though I know it's like a spell or like an anti-spell or like whatever it is. But it's very interesting to me in this time. But yeah, he's
Is it the obsidian that's like suppressing the magic? Is that what it does? Is that what's doing it? Like his clock tower with all the obsidian? Or does that more have to do with the rings?
If it's not mentioned, don't tell me.
More for
No.
Or is it more for the...
You're like blipping out every other word, Melissa. Sorry. Like,
I think she said, like, do we discover it more in the future? Like, about, like, what exactly the clock tower's purpose is and the obsidian, like, the ring, because it's the same material and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We won't.
It is more in the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we find out in this one is that with the key that he has, keys, he's able to have done what he did to cast out magic from where he is.
Except anything but his own.
Yeah.
And Dorian, because it's
And
I'm curious about like what's all the like all of the doors that were in there. Like, are there any other creatures behind there? Like, I want to know. We just like passed through so many doors to get to the end, and I'm like, interesting. I want to go back there.
Yeah. And I wonder this, and this is for me, like, I honestly don't remember the answer to this, because why does it just hurt the people who have some of it in their line, but yet other people who fully have it, like, they were able to do it? I'm confused by that. Well, because like Aelin, she is half magic. Like, we were told that about Aelin Galathinius, that she will.
Right.
Yet like Caltaine and then the cousin, what's his name? They're having headaches when they're around.
Yeah.
They're having headaches from it.
Yeah, but they can't do magic, right?
Right, but like Celaena's not having headaches.
I thought it was because they were being influenced like directly. Like Roland has one of the rings on his finger now, and Caltaine was a pawn of Parrington dude. I thought it was because they were like directly manipulating, or Roland's actually in on it, and they're like, we're gonna put this evil little ring on you, whatever it does, and now you're kind of working for us type of thing. I thought it was more influence than...
I know what the rings do, obviously, but I
think there's something directly giving them the headaches too.
What?
I think there's something directly giving them the headaches too, but that we find out in the future.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
When Dorian would use... Sorry.
It's the after effects of it. Yeah, because that's what was happening. Well, that's what was happening to Caltaine in the first one then. Because whenever Parrington would talk to her and tell her to do something, she would then be like, oh, my head hurts. So.
Your head hurts. Yeah, it's like something like you have to be directly... I won't get into it, but yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to it tomorrow. It's okay. I was just trying to remember. There's a lot to this.
100%. I have questions too. I feel like I'm like, I have a question, and this is like my second read.
I know, me too. And I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be answering questions, but I don't have any then. Okay. Okay.
Are we? Someone mentioned Mort, the door knocker. Do you have him on there by any chance? Because I love him.
We'll get there. We're almost there.
Okay.
Okay. Let me go back to this. Sorry, things were distracting me. I wanted to talk about Archer, our mastermind apparently here. So I totally forgot that he's the one that killed him.
I did too.
So I was like, oh, it's the king who did it. I was like, it's the king. The king did it.
Right.
I kind of thought it was a little bit stupid. Just me.
Yeah, his reasoning was stupid. That's why
he did a whole villain speech like, you and I can rule together. And I was just like, oh, God, dude, no.
But that's
no,
why
it's not a good look for you.
She made it happen. That's why, for me, I think it's like she was supposed to be a sacrifice, is why I think it sounds so weak, is I think that he's like, I don't know.
Like, this dude was the master manipulator of all this? Like, come on.
Yeah, I feel like his reasonings make sense to him, but I think that the way that Nehemiah presented herself to him and then like says that she knows all this stuff is like trying to egg him into killing her, in my opinion. I can be wrong about that. But just because of that conversation she had with Celaena, like that's the next step she was supposed to take, is like she's supposed to die. So and how did Archer really take out her and her guards? Like, that's the thing for me, is like her guards were on guard. I think they let themselves be killed as well. You know, they're dying with their lady, because I don't think that Archer and his plans are smart enough to take out.
No, he feels like such a weak character that it's hard to believe. So, I mean, I'm fully on board with this was completely planned on the Nehemiah side of things, because she's just so badass and knows so much. Like, she was even like in book 1, like doing all the wards and stuff around Celaena's bed to try to protect her. Like, she had to have something up her sleeve if she really wanted to protect herself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just feel like she's too smart to get caught that way unless it was all part of the plan for the greater good type of thing.
Right. Like he was a pawn in her bigger situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. She probably was like, come at this time to come into my room so we could just do this.
Yeah. Or they
like he's going to be coming. Just let him in.
Let him in.
Act really weak because, gosh, he thinks he's hot shit. So let him think it.
Because she could fight, right? She could fight.
She seems badass to me.
Crystal, did you have anything else you wanted to share? I know you have to jump off, but if there's anything we haven't touched on yet, feel free.
I think I'm good.
Right.
I think I'm good. I'm excited for the next one. So
yeah.
Thanks so much for having me on here. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I'll see y'all later.
Yeah. Bye, Crystal.
Bye, Crystal.
Yeah. She was messaging us and being like, I have to go. You guys are talking. And I'm like, you're the best.
So much talking.
Okay. Yes. Because we still have a couple more. There's so much of these. And like, I'm like,
I could talk forever for this.
I know.
I'm about to say, I'm not going anywhere. So we're okay. We're good.
Fine. But I'm just like, this is only book 2. And we're like barely into shit. That's what I'm like. We're going to get into some of these books and we're going to have to get.
You make a 3-hour-long live show.
Right. I was like, we're going to start having to have like weekly ones just to go over the same thing.
Like part 1 of this book.
Part 1 of book 3. Yeah.
Wasn't his plan to impersonate the councilman and hire Grave? Grave was a physical killer. Fair enough. I still think, though,
was the killer.
Yeah. Yeah, but I still think that she had a heads up. You know, like she made it.
Right.
I just feel that. I fully feel that, because there's no way that even Graves against her guards, who are like the best trained, and with her and her powers, he's not good enough.
And here's the thing, she was able to warn Celaena a little bit, and you wouldn't be able to warn someone if you didn't know it was coming. Like, I felt like she knew.
Yep. Stacey, other ones will be earlier. It was just me, because on Saturdays I have shit to do, and so we couldn't do it. The other ones will be earlier. We'll start at like 5.
Jen's fault.
I know. I'm sorry. I didn't know how
I'm joking.
Okay. Now we're going to move into, we'll talk about these because people want to talk about it. Yes, Mort is one of the best parts. He's hilarious. I love inanimate talking objects that have been spelled to do things. And
okay, by far my favorite part of the book is when she walks up and he's like, give me your name. And like I'm Celaena or whatever. And he just laughs. He
Yep.
just laughs and laughs and laughs. And you know, because he knows who she really is. So I
Yep.
just thought that was
Yep.
favorite part. I hope you guys love that part too.
I loved it this time. I was like, oh, this sassy door knocker is my favorite thing.
The first time he appeared, I was like, haven't we been in this room before? Where did he come from? But like he explains it later, you know, but I was just like, where did you come from? Where were you in the first one? But I loved him. I loved him. He was so freaking cool. There was a comment like quite a bit earlier, and I love that he's kind of all knowing. Like he knows what's going on, even if he can't see it. And I just love that. And that he doesn't give anything away. He makes her work for it. I'm like, I like it. She needs to work for it.
And he's a great tool of Celaena, where Celaena is trying to get her to admit everything. Like Elena's trying to get her to acknowledge it. And so it's like, I'm not going to feed you the answers. This isn't, it's like you said, like you need to do the work with this. And the work is you are Aelin, Ash River Galathinius. You are not this persona you've put on. So come on, we need to get going now, you know, and it makes her figure it out, you know.
Ask the right questions.
Yes.
You know?
I love that. I love that. He's like, well, you didn't ask me the right question. I'm sorry. I'm gonna only answer it very literally.
100%.
Yeah. I also think it's a double-edged tool that Sarah's using this for, because number one, if we have Celaena there just giving us all the answers, that's not super interesting for the book, for her to always be like an info dumpy person for us.
Right.
And also it's explained like, well, I expended a lot of the energy that I've saved up over all of these years. She's, you know, she only has so much energy to expel. And she did that when she saved her in the previous book. So now it's like, I only have so much to give. And that's a very interesting way to set it up, that there's only so much that she has to share, right? In this land without magic, you know, like that makes sense because nobody else is able to use it. So she's using up this store that's saved there to do that. And
but I even like that it's harder for like a ghostly character that has all of the information. It's hard for them to come and share all of that. Like, because then she could very easily just give her all the answers, but she can't. She's limited, and I like that.
Yeah. Right. And like you said, like she doesn't want it yet either, because she's still
she's not ready for it.
And that's why, you know, Celaena and Nehemiah, it's like you need to make the next step. And then now when she's coming to look for it, it's like, well, I'm not just going to give you the answer as to what Nehemiah was doing. Like, you need to figure it out. And we find out a lot of information. You know, this is dropped. Yeah, Stacey, like, I can't remember. I can't remember if it's like Dorian finding this out. Someone will have to remind me, or if it's her. But there's literally a line about the fact that there are worlds that are stacked on top of each other. And I was like, there it is.
Right.
You know about those.
Yeah.
Now, what's the timeline in all of those places? Please tell me what that is. Anyway.
And that was actually the part, like the other dimension part, where, you know, she has to jump in, then all of a sudden she has to switch to her fae form. That was the part that I was surprised about, because I was not thinking that she was like had a full on fae form, and I was like, oh, cool. It was less about like her being like Aelin and more about like, oh my God, she's like full on fae, and she's like, it's her two forms, and she's hiding that fact. And I thought that was so cool. So I'm excited. I want to see more fae Celaena.
Yeah. Well, and it's because magic is stripped that she's able to hide it.
Right. Exactly.
It's like it works for her, because if the king weren't suppressing that, she wouldn't be able to hide who she is, you know?
Right.
And I think she mentioned when she was a child, she was quite volatile too, and she could barely hide that she had a fae form, which was not good. So works out in her favor. She gets to mature a little bit and control that. Hopefully learn it where she's going now.
Yeah. When someone mentioned, so this was mentioned like way back in the chat, and I didn't show it because we weren't ready yet. But when we were talking about Dorian not recognizing her, and the thing that comes up later is like the eyes are very noticeable. That is something that we don't really comment on her eyes, of them like noticing it until it's like clicking into place. And I think that that's the hiding in plain sight of number one. Right. They think this person's dead. So yeah, their friend has interesting eyes, but it isn't until all these other dominoes start that it's like, oh, duh, her eyes, you know?
It also was mentioned that she very much like avoided like looking directly in the eyes, trying to hide it because she knows that they're noticeable. And I like that. I do find that Sarah J. Maas she doesn't overly describe characters throughout the novel. Like she just doesn't, which I appreciate that. But so it was less kind of like, oh no, she made a mistake. And there's no way that they wouldn't have noticed those very distinctive eyes. Like I like
and
it.
This is why I think like Aelin, I'm calling her Aelin now, is like playing the ultimate chess game because she knows all this information, and I feel like she's playing it to a T of like where she needs to be or where she needs to go, but she wants to
I
make
don't
sure.
feel like she's in the chess game. I think that she's being moved on the board at this point. I don't think she's quite like moving her pieces. I feel like somebody else is moving her at the moment. Like, she still hasn't gotten with the program yet. I just don't feel like
she was a princess who didn't need to know anything yet. You know, she didn't have to know anything yet. So like, yeah, she knows the history of her people
herself.
Like she knows who her parents were, you know, like she knows that stuff when it gets brought up. But when she is talking about, like when she talks about that as being a different place or whatever, I honestly think that she has very much split that she is Celaena right now. Like
she's dissociated herself from
when she came out of that river at the feet of like Erobian, like she is Celaena now. And so it really, like, even now going into this next book, like we're calling her Aelin now because as soon as Aelin's names come up, we're like, it's Aelin, but she doesn't see herself as that yet.
Aelin yet. Yeah.
You know? And then part of her is like, she probably doesn't feel like she's worthy to use that name either for what she's done now. So
I like what Stacy said. She's playing checkers, but moving forward, she'll start playing chess. I like that.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like she's starting to like play.
I feel like she's gonna get motivated.
Like,
yeah.
Especially with her taking that step of like leaving and going to her first destination. I feel like it's her first official move to where she's gonna be going.
Yeah. Well, because even she doesn't even know how to get there. It's Chaol who, after hearing happening, is like, okay, I need to find a way for her to get there. She said she wants out of this contract. Maybe this will put her in touch with people who can help, you know?
And also, like, not spoilers, but the first chapter, she's not making moves in the first chapter. She's just hanging out. She's not doing anything. So I feel like she's getting her motivation. And I'm excited because when she does start making big girl moves and starts playing the game, that's when it's going to be exciting, because I think someone else had mentioned when Mort told her like, oh, the king figured out that riddle way faster than you. And I'm just like, she's going to have to up her game to go against the king because he's not a dummy. You know, he does have some smarts about him.
He found that room at what, 19? He's had that key now for what, how many years?
Yeah.
Like 20 years. So he's been planning this for quite a long time.
Right. So
I also, well, it's also interesting too, of no spoilers to it, but we know the land of the Fae, like these are people who are millennia, you know, they are hundreds of years old, and she is a child. She's a child in so many ways.
She's a baby.
You know,
that is true.
Like there is one thing to say about like the king, like, he's still only a like 48-year-old guy, according to the wiki. I did not make that up. So he's like 48 or whatever. Like he's still,
we're
still human in a lot of aspects, and you're going to, you know, a place of people who've been around for a really long time. So, okay, just a couple more. I wanted to bring up, because I wanted to know if this character stuck out to anyone else this time.
I was just
I already told Jenn no. I was like, nope.
Really?
Because she didn't want me. She's read the book where this person sticks out, but I don't want to remind her because she told me not to remind her. But I was just
I've only read all the books besides the first Crescent City once. So
it's more of like
nothing really like stuck out to me about
it was
her.
about
was
like her home, like the place that she was, and the things that she likes to eat. Things I was pointing out. That is a very specific kind of, she likes to, well, and literally there's someone with like the name kind of like her. So that's what I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize this. But also that's our first like witch that we're meeting, and I was very excited because I love the witches. There was names of different witch clans going up, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I'm so
See, and I noticed those more, Jen. Like, I feel like I noticed that because before I just read
random
over
words.
it and like
they're just salad. They're word salad when they're saying
Right.
like the iron teeth maidens of the witch class. Like all those words don't mean anything until
Right.
you just like you're like Elf. You're like I know him. I know them. You're very
right, 100%.
Yep. So I was very excited.
Yes. I'm so excited to get away from that kingdom. I'm so bored there.
Yeah. Well, there wasn't more to Bobby Yellowlegs. She's a dunzo, but it's I mean, it was mentioned, no spoilers in this. They were like, when we get the king's POV and King goes to check it out and he's like, oh no, she is a matriarch of the witches, the iron teeth, yeah. And there's going to be consequences of that. So he knows that, oh shit, that's not great that happened. And if the king's worried about it. So we'll definitely see some of them witches who are terrifying.
Right.
Not gonna lie. Oh, I love it though. So anyway, just want to ask about that. I don't know. Were there other parts? I only, I made this. Whoever read it, this was 40 pages. A character that we won't see again for a while, but this was Celaena being like bitchy again. I won't lie. I was like, why are you? Literally, she saves her and she's like, well, I didn't mean to. And I was like, wow. Okay. You're such a peach. You're such a peach. Just love you so much. But she's on her way to be punished for saving all the slaves. She was not slaving. That is why she's in trouble.
Right.
But yeah, I don't have too much to say about it, but I still made a card for it. So we were already talking about it, but this was the last card that I had. And I was very excited about it every time I see it. And Chaol, when he's just like, oh shit, what did I just do? So yeah.
It's very exciting thinking about like, she's going to be in a place where there's, familial ties, allies. Like it just feels like stuff's going to be happening now, hopefully. So
we heard a mention of a
100%.
cousin. We heard a mention of a cousin. Is it Adion?
That was in the first book too. No, not the first book. No, in the beginning of this book, because I mentioned it to Jenn, I was like, oh, it says that she has a cousin that's still, because I was already on to the fact that she was alien. I was like, it's her cousin's alive and apparently like a general for the king. I'm like, what is this? It's like, is he evil? Did he betray them? What's happening? I was like, or is he playing the long game? So I thought that was interesting. I was glad that he made an appearance at the end because I was like, okay, he wasn't just thrown in there, but.
Yeah. There was Aunt Maeve who was mentioned.
Yep.
Who seems to be a pretty interesting character.
Oh my God. I loved when Chaol was going back in the lineage and we found out who her grandmother, was it her grandmother or great grandmother was Mab? And I was like, how fucking cool is that? Aylin's grandmother, like the full Fae grandmother. I was like, oh, I love that so much.
Yeah, it's very interesting. So yeah, it's a good one. I fully admit I love this book for what it leads to, but I also just enjoyed it a lot more this time. This one I was able to listen to literally in one stretch, which will probably be the last book that I'm able to listen to in one stretch. But on a Saturday, I started it at like 2:00 and I just listened all day and I had such a great time. Stacy, I'm sure there are, but if this is your first time reading it, be a good girl and just wait, okay? Just wait.
Apparently, there's lots of spoilers. Don't look up anything on the internet. I've already been warned not to search anything because I don't want to be spoiled.
I'm already happy. I'm already happy that we at least got to connect one of them because now you can know going back that in the first one, every time we had to say Celaena, it was like choking back because she is Aelin for 7 of the 9.
You have to like regress. You have to regress and be like, oh no, gotta call her by her first name first.
Yeah, I was just we were watching. I'm like Celaena. Like I would have to specifically say that because she's just so not Celaena to me. Celaena is this.
Right.
She
this is
a bad dream, Jessin, that you just get to forget later on. Yeah. So that's why like it's easy for me to say I don't like Celaena because I don't like Celaena. But this gal, this gal, I like this gal.
I like it.
So
well, it's funny too because I can't even say her name very well. I'm
I
so
know.
used
You
to
had
saying
so much
Aelin.
trouble last episode.
I know. I was totally having trouble saying it because I'm like, when we were discussing the books, I would always discuss 3 and on, and it was always Aelin, and that was it. So I was like, okay, can't say that. Can't say that.
Well, this, Stacey, so this actually isn't separate. That was her like honorific name that she's like given. So like that will show up, but that's not a name that people are going to be calling her, just to tell you that. That's like Aelin has, eventually when you can look at the wiki for this, you will see a list of 15 names that this woman gets given. The most important ones to know are Aelin, Ash River, Galathinius, and eventually another name. Her married name eventually will be on there. But for now, this is the name that we need to know. And all the other ones out there. So, I mean, Lizelle, you know, that's okay. None of these names do you have to say the right way. And I'm only trying my best based on audiobook and what I've heard like other people say. And Sarah has said. I've watched a lot of interviews with Sarah talking about the people. That's what I'm basing it off of.
Right. And don't worry about saying the name wrong because I've read them wrong for so long that they're in my head because I've read them wrong. So then when I say them, I'm like.
The basic one to remember is if you see a Y, it's an I in all of her names. So like Irene, the name from Assassin and the Healer, it's Irene, but it's a Y. It's Irene. Anytime you see a Y, it's an I, and then you're probably pretty good. But she likes to put lots of vowels together, and she likes to do all that fantasy stuff. So when we go to the Fae, and you get introduced to all the Fae who have all these vowels in their names, oh my gosh, there's so many of them. I am excited to listen to the audiobook, but I'm also like, is this gonna like F up a way that I've said a name for like 5 years? When I finally hear some names, I have a feeling about it.
When I first read Crescent City, like I wanted to listen to the audiobook because I was like, you know, there's going to be lots of, you know, names and stuff and I want to know how to say them right. But I'm just having too much fun reading these physically. So every time I message Jen, I'm like, I don't know if I'm saying the name right. I'm like, but this person, hopefully you know who I'm talking about.
And I'll be like, well, the only reason too why that makes me laugh is like in the Fae, there are so many A names in this series. Like it gets confusing because you can't just say that A name because there's like 10. Right. And so I'm just like Adion and then Aelin and then there's more. And it's just like, okay, could we pick a different letter to start people's like
I feel like the A and the E, like it feels so like fantastical, like and it's lyrical sometimes. So
what'd you say, Melissa?
So like all the H's in Crescent City, like all the H names. It's like, well, which one is this again?
I think she gets on a kick. Like she's like, okay, we're doing A's for this series. We're going to do H's for this series. We're going to do whatever for this series. E's
I
or
noticed
whatever.
that so much for more. I mean, like fantasy tends to have like just a lot of characters in general that you have to remember. But when I'm reading even just regular novels, I'm like, the author didn't realize that we have a Connor, a Colin, and a Celaena or whatever. And I'm just like, why pick another consonant? They don't all have to be C's. Like, please.
But then, but then when you go to Akatar, there's Rhysand or like people are like, it's Rhysand, it's Rhysand, whatever. Like, how do you say his fucking name? People didn't know that for how long, and I was just like, it's Reese's, like a Reese's Pieces. That's how she said it in an interview once, and now it's stuck in my head. But like the I's are said one way in this, and then they're a different way in this one. So like, how do I do it? But anyway,
and especially with the first book of this, it was like Cain and Chaol, and I was like, I've read it before. I don't but since I was reading the audiobook, I'm like, okay, who's who again? Like, but it's like the same 2 syllables.
Yeah.
I'm loving listening and reading. I know I shared it, but books 4 through 8 were part of the last sale that Audible had. So I got them all for $5 each. And I was like,
and I will say the only reason why I wasn't looking to listen to these books was because I wasn't invested and I felt like I would not pay attention. I was like, if I'm confined to physically reading, I'm more likely to pay attention, which I am because it's actually taking me a lot longer. Like I sit down at night and like that's my time to actually read it. So I don't read it like all in one go. It's like every single night I read a couple chapters and I do it that way.
Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and wrap up this one. We're at an hour and a half here, and thanks for joining with this. I'm so excited for the next one, although these have both been amazing. The next one will be on the 15th on Tori's channel, which of course we'll share that out to everybody, and it'll be in the Discord, and we'll be sharing it everywhere. But we're gonna rotate through the channels, so not everyone has to do them all. Except as soon as I started doing these, I was like, but I want to be on all of them. So really some people will back out, and then I can be like, I'm on all of them. Well, also, to be fair, I didn't know I was going to be fired 2 weeks ago. I thought I would be like, I don't want to have to do this every weekend all year. And now I'm like, well, what else am I doing now? Anyway, yes, the next one will be on May 15th on Tori's channel, and we'll be doing Air of Fire and Assassin in the Desert. So
I will be in the comments.
Yes, I will be on that one. I just will be hosting it. So yeah, but thank you everyone for coming to this one. You guys have been such great sports for this, and the conversation has been awesome. So we'll see you next time. Good night.